Oh, Frozen, a film that has taken the world by snowstorm and made every parent hate the words, "let it go." A film you might not even realize is the end result of decades of false starts in translating Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen to the big screen. It's one of Disney's most drastic reinventions, repurposing a story with sinister trolls, talking flowers, and one criminally insane preteen into a magical spectacular you either love or hate, but have heard 50 times either way. Hi, I'm Frank James Bailey with channel Frederator, and today we're checking out the original details of Frozen. So strap into your sleigh and kiss your reindeer goodbye. These are the Disney dark secrets of Frozen. Get trolled. When I say trolls, you probably think of the internet. All of it. The whole thing. When I say trolls again, and nudge and point to the Frozen logo, you're like, ah, yeah. And remember the little rock people who kidnapped young Kristoff, which is weird and troubling, and the kidnapping is actually in the original, surprisingly, and then reappeared later in Act 2 to remind Anna that, hey, the movie's almost over. Neither of you can really do much better, so you should probably fall for a repugnant foster man-child. Still, Andersen's trolls are even more maladjusted. In fact, one of them is the devil. Or at least the devil is a teacher at the school for trolls, depending on the translation. Either way, the original story opens with the devil troll creating a mirror that distorts everything seen through it to appear unpleasant. But when he and the other trolls fly up to heaven to punk God with their sick new devil mirror, because what else are you gonna do with it, it shatters into billions of pieces and scatters across the earth. Luckily for Satan, everyone who gets a piece stuck in them sees the world as if through the mirror and has their heart frozen in ice. Metaphorically. You can probably see how this translates into the Disney version, but things are about to veer even further off course. The story is about someone, Elsa. Frozen tells the story of sister princesses Anna and Elsa. The Snow Queen does not. Like, at all. After the mirror shard business, we smash cut to a city where we're introduced to Gerda and Kai. They're not royalty, they're not even siblings, and neither of them, as far as we are told, wants to build a snowman. They're two little friends whose families are neighbors. During one of their play sessions, Kai's grandmother tells the story of the Snow Queen, who's, well, she's the Queen of Snow. Not a lot more happening there. Not long after, Kai's peering out of a window and spies the Queen appearing out of a snowstorm, beckoning to him. Luckily, Kai's stranger danger game is on point, and he gets away from there. The winter passes, and no more creepy visits from the Snow Queen. And in the spring, Kai and Gerda finally return to playing outside. You know, like kids in dark ages, pre-internet. As if that wasn't bad enough, Kai gets hit with a shard of the devil's mirror that was floating on the breeze. Not quite how it happens to Anna, whose heart gets hit with magical ice and starts to freeze. But you can see the connection. Play gone wrong, magical mischief, frozen hearts. And unlike Anna, Kai isn't struck with the magical time bomb in his chest. The mirror's influence turns him into a jerk. He mistreats Gerda, mocks his grandmother, and generally makes a nuisance of himself all around. And then, winter comes. One day while Kai is out, the Snow Queen drives through town on her sleigh, and Kai, in a moment of questionable judgment, hitches his own sleigh to hers and gets dragged along. Apparently, this is something kids would do back then, like an old Danish version of holding onto the back of a truck on a skateboard. You know, like that scene from Back to the Future? But maybe that's what just the town people told themselves to justify not intervening when a strange icy lady dragged the kid, who's been terrorizing them for months, off into the wilderness. Hey, serves him right. Outside of town, the Queen pulls Kai up to her sleigh and gives him 2 kisses. The first numbs him to the cold, but the second makes him forget his family and Gerda. You win some, you lose some. And then things get weird. The details are pretty different so far, but you can see where they found a lot of Frozen's setup in this. Disney's version condenses elements of Kai and the Snow Queen into a single character in Elsa, and this is arguably a masterstroke, making the antagonist relatable, sympathetic, and personally connected to the hero. But before Anna/Gerda can save Elsa/Kai, they gotta go on an adventure, and this is where things really start to diverge. It's not really clear why Gerda wants to save Kai, who, as we established, is now a jerk. She's just that pure of heart. Everyone in town thinks Kai drowned, and they're kind of relieved, but Gerda refuses to accept it. She heads to the river and heaves her shoes in the water, hoping the river will tell her the truth. This is what we had to do before Google. When the shoes float back to her, she takes it as a sign that Kai is alive, which is a leap of logic that we've just got to accept. But then, she's swept downriver, shoeless and alone. She's rescued by an old woman who, as would have it, knows magic. The woman decides to keep Gerda as her very own prisoner/daughter. Now we know where Frozen's trolls got the idea. It's all going well though, until Gerda spots a rose on the woman's hat that reminds her of Kai and her mission. Gerda cries, and her tears cause roses to sprout on the ground. The roses, which can talk, because it's a normal story in which regular things happen, let Gerda know that, while they were underground, they could see all the dead who were buried down there, which is really mental in a fairy tale. They tell Gerda that Kai is not underground, and that's the push she needs to head back on her search. It's not long before she runs into a talking raven, who tells her that Kai is in the princess palace. Which princess? The princess! Just go with it. They sneak into the palace but only find a prince who looks like Kai. Luckily, the prince and princess listen to Gerda's story, and they do what anyone would do for a girl who's been wandering the wilderness barefoot for days because a flower told them their friend was alive. They gave her clothes and a carriage and sent her on her way. This goes about as well as you'd think. No sooner than you can say wildly irresponsible childcare decisions, Gerda's coach is ransacked by thieves, and she's taken as prisoner playmate by one character in the story more psychotic than Kai, the little robber girl. The robber girl is crazy. She tortures her pets for fun. She would probably torture Gerda for fun, given the opportunity. She's also the closest thing Andersen's story has to an equivalent for Kristoff, though only in the sense that she's an ally for the hero on the outside of normal society, and her friends are reindeer. As for the reindeer, well, this isn't Sven. First off, the reindeer's name is Bay. Between that and Kai's trollish behavior, it's pretty clear that Andersen predicted most of the modern internet. Second, Bay can talk. And though the little robber girl loves torturing Bay, she's so moved by Gerda's story that she lets them both go. Robber girl's other prisoner pets are Flockadoves who, like literally everything else in the story, can talk, have seen the Snow Queen headed for the distant Lapland, and Bay knows the way there. Heading into the final Lapland, Bay and Gerda cross the snowy wilderness, lit by northern lights. They're helped by characters creatively described as the Lap Woman from Lapland and the Finn Woman from Finland. The Finn Woman delivers the moral of the story to Bay. Gerda's power is her childlike innocence and purity. It sure as hell ain't any of that true love stuff that Disney wove in. She also notes what may be the craziest thing about the entire tale. Gerda is still barefoot. None of the people who have helped her, not the witch, not the Lap Woman, not the princess who gave her new clothes and her own carriage to ride in, have thought to give this child a pair of shoes to replace the one she hurled into the lake to find out whether or not her friend was dead or not. And none of this made it into the movie. After warming up with the Finn Woman, Bay and Gerda are off, but Gerda must face the Ice Queen's palace alone, and so Bay drops her off at the edge of the Queen's gardens, sending her on her way with a kiss on the lips, as one does when one is a talking reindeer escorting a preteen into mortal danger. God, it's so weird how that didn't make it into a movie. Gerda presses on, defeating the enemy snow creatures that block her path, and having her breath form into angels to protect her. Naturally, it's at this point that we jump back to see what Kai's been up to. Without a comment section to accompany him, the demon child of Denmark has been forced to entertain himself by trying to solve a puzzle left by the Queen in order to win his freedom. He has not been doing well. Gerda finds Kai before the Queen's throne, locked in a fruitless staring contest with the Queen's ice puzzle. And so Gerda, who has as little self-respect as she does shoes, throws herself at the jerk child, whose bad behavior has gotten her washed down river, kidnapped twice, and sent her hundreds of miles into the wilderness. Naturally, her pure love melts the shard of the devil's mirror in his heart, and Kai is free. Which might jog your memory that, oh yeah, this is Frozen. This is the big plot beat from the ending that made it into Disney's take, though they rebuilt the story around it to make it the big thematic payoff of the movie. They dance for joy, predating the dance party ending supposedly pioneered by Shrek by over a century, and the puzzle pieces join in the dance before collapsing into the correct configuration. The Ice Queen's magic is defeated, even though the Queen herself is completely absent from the story's climax. Kai is free twice over, and no longer terrible. He is, however, very, very cold, physically. So he, Gerda, and Bay book it back to the city, stopping off with their friends along the way. Except for Raven. He died. For no reason. Gerda and Kai return home, and Andersen gives us a Bible quote to put a nice little bow on the theme, which pretty much says, don't be a cold-hearted jerk and stay young inside. Also, if you're gonna hike across Scandinavia, for God's sakes, bring some shoes. And that's the Snow Queen. A Frozen fable with no singing, no Olaf, and the darkest Disney secret of all, human on reindeer smooching. Ugh. Think we missed anything? Need to vent your frustration and let it go into the void? Slide on down to the comments section and let us hear it. And while you're there, why not hurl your shoes at the subscribe button? Or just click on it and the notification bell like a normal person. But if you do throw your shoes, but please don't, we'll forgive you. Because remember, Frederator loves you. Seriously though, keep your shoes on.